You ever have one of those brilliant ideas, a huge plan for your life, and then nothing? Well, we're going to dive into a story today that's a serious wake-up call for anyone who's ever been stuck in that trap. It's called the Daydreamer's Downfall.
So, let me ask you something. And I mean, really think about this for a second. Do your actions actually match up with your biggest dreams? Yeah, because today's story is all about that gap. You know, the huge canyon that can form between what we say we want and what we're actually doing to make it happen. And trust me, that gap, it's dangerous. It can literally swallow your dreams whole before you even get started.
All right, so let's meet our main character. And, he might seem a little familiar to some of us. He's what you might call a dreamer without a plan.
Okay, so this is Theo, and what's wild about this guy is the huge difference between his potential and his reality. On one hand, he's got everything going for him. He's healthy, he's strong, totally capable. But on the other hand, he's lazy, poor, and just completely lost in his own little world.
And his poverty wasn't just bad luck. Not at all. It was a choice. He had these huge dreams of being rich, but he flat out refused to work. Instead, he just counted on the kindness of his neighbors to get by. Then, one morning, a little opportunity just kind of falls into his lap. A rich merchant is handing out free milk to people who need it. And Theo, for once, actually does something. He gets in line and he walks away with a pot of fresh milk. Now, this seems like nothing, right? But this is where everything starts.
So, he's got this one pot of milk, and what does he see? Not just a meal. Oh no, he sees an entire empire. Let's dive into how he builds this massive fantasy kingdom, all without lifting a finger.
So after he has a little something to eat, Theo comes to a fork in the road, metaphorically speaking. One path, it leads to the fields, to actual, real work with his dad. The other path, it leads to a shady spot under a tree, to his daydreams. Guess which one he picks? Yep, he chooses the tree.
And this right here is where his so-called aspirations kick into high gear. I mean, he's got big ambitions for sure, but they're kind of like a ship with no sail and no rudder, just drifting around in his imagination, totally disconnected from anything real.
So the daydream just takes off. Okay, first, the milk becomes cheese. Then he'll sell the cheese for money. That money buys a hen, the hen lays eggs, the eggs hatch, and boom, he's got a whole poultry farm. Then he'll sell the farm, buy a bunch of cows, open a huge dairy, and just like that, he's the richest guy in town. It's a lot. And it all starts with that one pot of milk.
But wait, it doesn't even stop there. Oh no, he's not just rich. Now he's gonna marry a rich girl, have this huge estate, and a handsome son to inherit the whole shebang. I mean, in his head, he's built the perfect life, a total dynasty. But we all know how this goes, right? Dreams that are built on nothing but air, they're super fragile. And now we get to the part where Theo's little fantasy world has a head-on collision with reality.
Okay, pay attention, because this is the key moment. He's daydreaming about his future son, and he thinks to himself, you know what? If my son turns out to be lazy, I'm going to teach him a lesson and whack him with a stick. The irony. It's just wow. In his own fantasy, he can't stand the one thing that defines his entire real life.
And at that exact moment, crash.
He's so lost in this daydream that he actually acts it out. He grabs a real stick from the ground and swings it, pretending to discipline his imaginary son. And with that one single thoughtless move, he completely shatters the real pot of milk sitting right next to him.
And poof, it's over. Just like that. The one real thing he had, it's gone. And with it, the whole fantasy empire. The cheese, the chickens, the cows, the family. It all just vanishes into a puddle of milk on the ground.
So, what's the point of this whole sad story? What are we supposed to take away from Theo's big mess up? Well, that brings us to what I like to call the action-aspiration rule.
Really? Theo's story is kind of like a mirror, isn't it? It makes you ask yourself, how many of my own big dreams are just stuck in my head? How often do I just sit around doing nothing when I could be taking that first step?
When you boil it all down, the rule is super simple, but really powerful. If you want success, the key isn't just dreaming about it, it's doing the work. And if you want to accomplish something, the key is discipline.
So let's recap the big lessons here. Number 1, dreams are pretty much worthless without effort. Number 2, your actions have to line up with your ambition. 3. Those little opportunities can turn into huge things, but only if you actually do something with them. And finally, the big one, a fantasy is not a plan. It's just not.
So as we wrap this up, I'm going to leave you with this thought. What's the pot of milk in your life right now? Seriously, what's that one small, real opportunity that's sitting right there, just waiting for you to take the first step instead of just daydreaming about it? The choice, like it was for Theo, is all yours.